I'm drinking out of a Titanic mug that my husband and I got from Vegas. And when I got home with it and I sat down and drank coffee out of it one morning, my immediate thought, was that narcissists are just like the Titanic. It was this big, beautiful ship that was supposed to be promised to be the safest ship that had ever been built, the strongest ship that had ever been built. And it was so grand and luxurious and just promised so much to the people boarding it and going on, and so much promise of joy and peace and comfort in knowing that they were going to be on this beautiful, safe ship. And then once they got on and things started going south, they knew they were stuck. They knew eventually that there were limited options on how to get out. And just the whole story of the Titanic reminded me so much of what it's like to live life with a narcissist, and how once the ship starts going down, there is no returning. You can't go back and get off the boat. And now you have to suffer the consequences of getting on that ship. And there's so much damage and there's so much destruction and so much heartache in all of it. And so I wanted to share this because I was thinking about my story and really wanted to connect it with the story of the Titanic because of all the similarities that it entails. And truly believing that you're walking into something so wonderful and amazing and promising, to find out that the ship is going to sink. And also want to talk to you guys about how to avoid getting on a ship like the Titanic with someone who could be narcissistic, that you're not seeing all the signs. And that's what's so crazy scary about it. And I think what more people need to be understanding of is that you're not walking in knowingly and choosing to be abused by someone. Victims of abuse aren't choosing to be abused. They're choosing the lie that they're being sold. They're choosing a life that's being falsely promised to them over and over again. And so it's not this situation of a victim choosing to be abused and all the questions that people ask around that, like, why did you stay? How could you have stayed for so long? Why didn't you leave right away? You know, things like that. You could have left sooner. Why did you choose to stay? And so these are all important questions that we need to address around abuse, because abuse is oftentimes a very slow and manipulative process by the abuser. And the victim isn't aware that it's happening until it's too late, just like the Titanic and everyone on that ship not knowing that they were going to be sinking and being in this life or death situation until it was too late. So when I first met my ex-husband, he was extremely charming. He was everything I was looking for in a man. He appeared to love the Lord, so I'm just explaining how he came off to me in the first year that we were together. He appeared to love the Lord, was a church-going guy, was involved in a men's study, acted like he was very much invested in wanting to lead as a godly husband, that he was wanting marriage, that we were on the same page with our values and beliefs in every way. He was supportive and encouraging in everything that I wanted to accomplish, including writing my book, and doing a lot of things that I had been wanting to do, as well as supporting me and being a stay-at-home wife, understanding that I had some health limitations and that I wasn't going to be able to work doing hair anymore like I had been for 17 years. So he was very supportive. We were on the same page, so I thought, and it seemed like things were headed in the right direction. He proposed to me 6 months into our relationship, a couple of days before he proposed, and the night before he was going to propose, I sat down with him because I had a feeling that it was coming. And I told him I wasn't ready. I said, I'm not ready to get engaged. I'm not ready to take that next step. I need more time. And that made him really angry. So he lost his temper. We left the hotel we were staying at in San Diego. He drove us home, threatened to leave me if I went home. I went home. I said, okay, I'm going home. If this is the way it's going to be, I'm leaving. So I went home. He was very, very angry. The next morning, he had shown up at my place, literally on his knees next to my bed, apologizing, in tears, crying, begging for me to forgive him, profusely apologizing for his behavior. And I fell for it. I believed it. He had all the right things to say. I've never loved anyone in my life the way that I love you. This has just been so overwhelming for me to feel this kind of love for someone. You name it. I mean, he had all the things to convince me, just pulled right out of the hat, for me to fall back into the relationship with him. So the very next day, he took me shopping. We had a really beautiful suite reserved at the Lido house that he had surprised me with in Newport Beach. And so I went with him there. And it was the 4th of July of all days of the year. And that was the night that he proposed to me on the balcony when the fireworks were going off. And you know, this is what narcissists do. This is what grooming abusers do. They lure you back in, they romance you back in. So I had, you know, this shopping trip with him, beautiful day, drive to Newport, this beautiful 3-story suite. And so how could I say no? And this was, of course, 2 nights after I said I needed more time. But the thing with narcissists is, especially with someone that's a malignant type, that's very aggressive, who more falls into the category of someone with antisocial personality disorder, is that they are relentless in their pursuit. When they want something, they go after it. They do whatever they can to get it, and no holds bar. I mean, they will bulldoze over any boundary, anyone, anything to get what they want in the most convincing way. And it's actually very frightening when you think about all the things that they go through, all the hoops that they jump through to manipulate and control someone. And I think that this comes from like a really deep-seated fear of abandonment, because somewhere along the line they experienced that in their childhood. But it's so much more than that, especially someone who is a sociopath or psychopath. So they are very strategic, manipulative, have no sense of conscientiousness as far as what the consequences will be in regards to how they're affecting other people. They do seem to be conscientious of how things are affecting them, because they want to protect themselves. They want to defend themselves and work very hard and strategically at avoiding consequences, even though they are causing so much damage in their wake. It's amazing how they evade consequences, how they evade law enforcement and things like that. And that's because they're constantly manipulating everyone around them. They're not just manipulating their victims, they're manipulating anyone who could be in an authoritative figure above them. So that way they are able to get away with what they do. So after I said yes, we went into planning this whole beautiful wedding on a yacht that we had about 5 months after that. And he took charge. He planned pretty much the entire thing. And during the whole courtship process, as you can imagine, him acting like the man of my dreams, the man that I could have always wanted as a husband and father figure to my kids, my boys. He was laying on the love bombing so thick during this entire time, taking us on trips, taking my boys on trips with him, fishing trips, boating trips, buying them clothes. He would say, I have $350 put on file for them at the Active store. Go take them and buy them whatever. Or go take them here or there, buy them whatever, just tell me what the bill is at the front. So he acted like he would just do anything for me. I would come home to gifts at my front door, and I didn't really care so much about that. I wasn't really impressed with all of that, but what I was impressed with was his effort. And I thought, for a man to make this immense amount of effort in my life to be with me, to be good to my kids, and as a single mom, having 3 kids, the effort that he was making to be involved in their lives and to love me and to show them the way I should be loved was a huge deal to me, and be a big deal to any woman in that situation. So they come on very strong, very aggressively, and it makes it really difficult to say no, especially when you are falling for them during this time. You're attracted to them, there's chemistry there, all the things seem to be lining up as far as what you would have wanted. And so you fall for it, you believe it, and I certainly did. And so during our wedding planning, he set up this whole beautiful shower for me, a beautiful waterfront place in Newport Beach. He planned it, he did the invitations, he designed our wedding invitations, he picked out my wedding dress, actually had it on hold for me to go get and try on and be fitted and everything. And it was exactly what I would have wanted. And so everything that he did, it seemed so kind to me. And everybody was astounded by it. Everybody was impressed. Everyone in my life was saying things like, wow, he is amazing. I can't believe that he would do all of this, that he would go above and beyond to do all of that for you. I wish my husband would do something like that for me. He never has done anything for me like that in 15 years or whatever. So I was hearing comments like that left and right from people, just how impressed they were by everything that he was doing. And then I had one girlfriend say this to me, and it was something that I should have paid more attention to. She said, is this your wedding or is it his? Because she was a little taken aback and put off by him taking over all of this wedding planning and doing all of it. But to me as a single mom, which she wasn't, so she couldn't relate to me in that way, I was always having to take charge. I was always the one having to be in charge of everything in my life, with my 3 kids, with my work, with my house that I owned at the time. And everything was on my shoulders. So for someone to come in like a knight in shining armor and take charge and take all of this weight off of me, it was so relieving at the time. It felt so nice to have someone doing all of those things for me and taking that extra stress off of me while I was working and all of that. So for him to be doing all of that planning while I was moving my business and trying to get things in order for us to come together as a married couple, as husband and wife, it was really, really nice and enjoyable. I got to enjoy all of these things that he was doing on top of it. So it was just, I felt like I was living this dream life with this person. And we ended up having this beautiful wedding on a yacht, very small and intimate, with just our family and closest friends. And it was such a beautiful night. I felt like it was the night of my life. I had never felt more beautiful. I had never felt more loved, celebrated, appreciated. We enjoyed just a delicious meal. It was like everything went perfectly. We got beautiful sunset pictures. We just had the night of our lives. We had an amazing time. And so I just felt like I was on cloud nine. And we went on our honeymoon, and the second day that we were in Hawaii, it was my birthday. And we're sitting outside overlooking the water and the pool area at the Ritz-Carlton in Maui. And we were sitting there in the morning. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and we were having coffee and we were talking, and all of a sudden he got really quiet in like a disturbing kind of way. And I kept looking at him, and I kept trying to figure out if I had said something or done something to offend him. I couldn't think of anything, and so I just asked him, like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And he was just completely silent and wouldn't answer me, wouldn't look at me. And I said, can you please talk to me and tell me what's going on? Like, what are you thinking? And this was the first time I'd really seen this from him. And then thinking back later on, I realized there were a couple of periods of time we were together where this anger was just kind of simmering under the surface, but I didn't know what that was. I couldn't identify what that was. But now looking back, knowing what I've been through, that's exactly what that was. It was this pent up like anger and frustration that was just constantly simmering underneath the surface and just boiling, like ready to explode at any moment. So in that moment, he looked over at me and he said, what have you done for me today, Carrie? And I just remember he had like this very cold, dead look in his eyes. And immediately I was like, oh no, this is not good. I don't know what I've just gotten myself into. And he's asking me this on my birthday, on our honeymoon, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what have I go, is there something I was supposed to do for you? Like, what would you like me to do for you? And he just went off on how he does everything for me, how he goes above and beyond to think of me and to plan these nice things for me. And I said, well, do I not seem appreciative? Like, I really am thankful for everything. And like, I just, the work that you put into things, like, I don't know how you do it. I'm just so thankful and so grateful for you. And it just wasn't enough. Like, he was still simmering inside, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was like nothing I was saying was pacifying the situation at all. And so he had brought up a conversation we had early in the morning. It was a conversation I had already forgot about. And basically, I had simply asked him about a few of the women that were liking and commenting on our wedding post who were extremely provocative. I had never seen them on Facebook before. Apparently these were women he was friends with, and he didn't even know them, and so that was a bit concerning. So I mentioned something about that morning. I asked him, do you know these women? They're commenting on our photos. I've never seen them before, but they look like really inappropriate, provocative women. So was just curious if you knew who they were. And basically he said he didn't. I think he unfriended them. I'm not sure. I don't remember how the whole conversation went, but it was a very short conversation. It was very brief. It was already forgotten about in my mind by the time we had gotten to breakfast and were drinking our coffees. So it was something that wasn't even in my mind. So he ended up mentioning something about that, and he started raising his voice at me and cussing. And there was a couple sitting behind us, and they were looking over, and I was just humiliated. And one of the men that was sitting at the table behind us made a comment to him like, would you please be quiet? And like gave him a look like, you know, please keep it down. And I simply told him, if you cannot lower your voice and stop cussing at me, I'm going to get up and leave. And so he continued. He got louder, he was cussing more, the anger was just growing. So I got up and I left the table, and I started walking out the front of the resort. And after I walked out the front doors, I saw a bench to the left up past this building. So I went to go sit on that bench and just get some fresh air away from him to allow him to calm down or whatever and think this through, because this was all just a shock to me. It just came out of nowhere. And so he ended up following me as I'm walking towards this bench. He's yelling and cussing, "You are my wife, don't walk away from me, get back here." As I'm getting closer to this building, I was just gonna go straight to the bench and sit, you know, and as I'm walking towards it, all of these security guards come out of the building. I guess it was the security building at the resort. Little did I know. They all came out, held him back, like detained him, asked me if I wanted him arrested. And I was just like, oh my gosh, no, like we just got married. Like he's just upset. We just need some space. The woman security guard there, she asked if she could drive me down around to the other side of the resort, so that way I wouldn't have to be near him, so we could have some space. And I said, sure, that would be nice. So she drove me down to the bottom, gave me her card, and she said, if you need help, if you need to go to a different room or anything, please call me and let me know. Long story short, he finds me down there, continues to go off on me, continues to harass me, yell at me, just berate me non-stop. People are staring. It was humiliating. And I thought, this is just not going to end. I don't know what happened. This has been going on all day now. And I can't keep doing this. So eventually I found myself a spot where he couldn't find me in a cabana somewhere. And I called the woman. I said, I would like to get another room from him if someone could please help me do that. They had security come get me, escort me to our room to get my things, and took me to another room. And I spent 2 nights in a different room from him under an alias name. And I was just beside myself, and it was so interesting because it was so beautiful when we got there. And then that night that I went to a different room, and the next 2 days I was there, it was pouring down rain, storming the entire time. And I just was like, the storm, it just has everything to do with the way that I'm feeling inside. And I couldn't call anyone. I couldn't text anyone. I was just so frozen. All I could do was pray. And I just thought, Lord, I don't know what is going to happen from here on out, but I just married this man and I believed that he was someone else. And here he was calling me and texting me nonstop, trying everything he could to get me to come back to the room, and I wouldn't. Finally, on the second day, he convinced me that he was calm enough, like calm down. It took him 2 days to calm down. That's why I wouldn't go back, because he was still upset and he was not listening or respecting anything that I was saying. So I just thought, if I could get him to calm down enough, then at least we could come back together, finish this out, and get back home, and then I can figure out what to do. And so that's what ended up happening. He was finally calm enough where I could get back together with him, go back to the room with him. We ended up having 2 other resorts booked for our trip. We were gone for 8 days, or 9 days total. So it was time for us to go to the next place. So we spent 1 more night there, went to a different resort. The rest of the time there, it was just very like, I don't know if he's gonna blow up again, when, where, or over what, and just kept praying. I remember on the flight home, I was just like, God, I know I'm gonna need you to come through for me, because I don't know what's happening. Please just be with me. Please just be here with me and get me through this, whatever it is I am about to go through. And that was the beginning of 2 years of hell with this man, of nothing but consistent lies, manipulation, deception, pulling me back in, me falling for it. There was a period of time in our second separation where we were not living together for over a year, and that was something that I did do. I didn't stay with him the entire time. We lived in separate homes. I didn't want my kids exposed to abuse. And so during that time, he was going to anger management. He went through all the steps. He went to anger management. He took a domestic violence course. We went to counseling together and separately. He was going to church every weekend, even when I wasn't going. There were things that he was going through the motions to show me he was a changed man. And after about 3 months, finally, of this continuing consistently, I was lured again into believing that he had changed. And not only I thought this, but the people around us did too. And so I was believing all of these things, thinking and hoping the best. And it was like that scripture of, like, when a demon goes into a person and then leaves the person and leaves them cleaned up, like the house is cleaned and swept up. I can't remember what scripture it is right now, but I'll leave it here for you guys and post it on this video for you to see. And then the demon leaves and gets several more and comes back and reoccupies that home. That is exactly what I saw happen with my ex-husband. And there's so much detail and story around that whole situation that I won't get into because it's just way too much for a video like this. But that's exactly what I saw happen. I saw what I thought and what a lot of people thought was a complete transformation, and then a complete possession. So he was definitely, without question, possessed. And once I realized that and I saw that, I was done. And I knew from that moment forward, this man needed serious deliverance. He wasn't of God. And I think that's what's so important to realize about these types of people, is that there is a spiritual, major spiritual stronghold on them that is demonic, and it's something to take very, very seriously, because spiritually, the enemy wants to pull us from our faith. There's so much damage done to our faith in this process because we are believers, because we are trying to live according to the word. We're trying to be obedient. We're trying to be subservient, submissive wives, obedient wives to our husbands, and do the right thing. And above all, be obedient to the Lord. And what I want women to know and understand more than anything is that God does not command for you to submit to evil. He commands us against evil. He tells us to hate evil, to cling to what is good. And there's nothing good in these people, as good as it might appear when they're pretending deep inside them. And the truth is, there is no real, tangible, fruitful good within them. And that's really hard to grasp and come to terms with when it comes to someone that we love. And so learning this and understanding this for me was a hard reality. But once I finally came to that reality, I never had felt more free and more peace in my decision. And the war is usually not over after you get out, after you have moved on and you're in your own place or you're living your own life. You have to protect yourself from the evil to follow in all of the ways that he's going to continue to try and make your life hell in whatever way that is, whether you guys have kids together or you own some property or some assets together or whatever it is, a business situation. He is going to continue to try and coercively control and manipulate you. And I can't say this enough to women. No contact is no contact. And even if it's involving kids, to be extremely low contact with them, meaning you only have contact with them in regards to the children. So for women especially, you are in such a vulnerable position when it comes to a narcissistic, especially sociopathic or psychopathic male who is a malignant narcissist. You need to be extremely careful and protective over yourself and your children when you get out from these relationships, because until they have a new victim, it continues on. The threats continue, the manipulation continues. So you have to cut it off fully, because if you give them any inkling whatsoever that there is any amount of hope at all left, they will do whatever they can to take advantage of that. So you have to slam the door completely shut on all hope with them. And that's the only way to truly be free of a narcissist like that. Just don't ignore the signs. You have to pay attention to them, not ignore them, not overlook them. Don't have compassion when he comes crawling back, crying, asking for forgiveness because of his behavior. If it is out of line, before you get married, it's most likely going to be much worse afterwards. So you want to see this consistency, not where these red flags are going up and you're like, whoa, this is a very different person than I've seen over the past few months all of a sudden. And I'm not talking about them just having an off day. I'm talking about there is a major character shift that is very evident, and you don't want to ignore that. You want to dig deeper and pay closer attention to that. And there's nothing that will show you that more if you just give yourself space from him. Anytime you set a boundary or you say, I need some time and space, and he can't handle it, that is going to show you right there. Because almost in all cases with a narcissist, they are not going to take that well. And they'll either go cheat, find someone else because they can't stand not having the constant attention and feeding of supply that they want, or they're going to flip out on you. They could stalk you. They might call people that you know to try and get in touch with you. These are red flags. These are things that are warning signs telling you it's a no-go. And I am now happily married to an amazing, godly man who has not wavered in his character and has shown that he is who he says he is. And that is what you want. That is what you're looking for. If you are looking to be married again or be with someone who is healthy, you want to see consistency over time. So you are not alone. And if you have experienced a situation like this, like the Titanic with a narcissist, I would love for you to share your story, for you to share your comments and experiences in this video. And if you like it, please hit like, subscribe to this channel, and you'll see more videos like this. Take care.